All right, hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Absolutely. Let's get into it.
Today we're tackling something that's, well, it's pretty crucial if you're aiming for the IAS, right?
Definitely. It's a topic that pops up all the time in the UPSC exams.
Yeah, we're talking about, the whole clash between forest rights and wildlife conservation. It's a bit of a minefield to navigate, to be honest.
It really is. And that's why we're here, to help you guys make sense of it all, especially for those tough exam questions.
And we've got a real doozy of a case study to work with today. Remember that whole controversy surrounding the Rani Durgavati Tiger Reserve?
Oh, yeah, that was all over the news. Indian Express had a whole series on it.
Exactly. Allegations of FRA violations, forced relocations. It's a lot to unpack.
It really boils down to the conflict between the Forest Rights Act and the Wildlife Protection Act. Those two don't always see eye to eye.
Right. Okay. So before we jump into the thick of it, maybe we should, set the scene a little bit.
Idea.
So picture this. You're in Madhya Pradesh, in the heart of the Vindhyan Ranges. That's where you'll find the Rani Durgavati Tiger Reserve.
Beautiful area, and ecologically significant, too.
Yeah, it's not just about the tigers, right? This sanctuary is a vital wildlife corridor. Connects different forest patches across the region.
Exactly. It's crucial for the movement and survival of all sorts of animals, especially the big mammals.
And then you've got the Durgavati River flowing right through it, adding to the whole, richness of the ecosystem. It's no surprise that local communities depend heavily on this area.
Oh, absolutely. It's a lifeline for them. The forest provides everything from timber to medicinal plants.
Yeah, like teak, sal trees, bamboo, honey, you name it. It's a real treasure trove.
And that's where the Forest Rights Act comes in. Remember, the FRA is all about recognizing the rights of these communities.
Okay, so let's break down the FRA a little bit for those who, need a refresher. What does it actually mean for these communities in practical terms?
Well, think about it this way. A family that's lived in and depended on the forest for generations, now they have the legal right to cultivate a certain amount of land.
Up to 4 hectares, right?
That's right. Plus, they might have rights to grazing areas, access to water bodies, even the management of specific forest resources.
So it's not just about individual rights. It's about empowering whole communities to manage their own resources, right?
Exactly. And a big part of that is the role of the Gram Sabha. That's the village assembly.
Ah, the Gram Sabha, yeah. They have a lot of power under the FRA.
They do. They determine and verify these rights, make sure everyone in the community has a say.
Okay, so that's the ideal scenario, right? But then we have this Indian Express report highlighting some serious concerns from the villagers in Rani Durgavati.
Right. They're saying their rights haven't been properly recognized,
Yep.
that they're being forced to relocate.
Yeah, and that there's been a lack of, proper consultation.
And that's where the potential clash between the FRA and the WLPA becomes really clear. You've got the government trying to protect wildlife, create tiger reserves, but they also have to make sure those forest-dwelling communities aren't being sidelined.
It's a balancing act for sure. And this kind of situation, I mean, it's like something straight out of a UPSC exam question, right?
Oh, absolutely. You could easily see this coming up in both the prelims and the mains.
Imagine you're in that exam hall and the question pops up. Balancing development, conservation, and tribal rights in India. Boom. This case study is your golden ticket.
It is. It gives you the perfect real-world example to analyze and discuss. And remember, the UPSC examiners aren't just looking for textbook answers. They want to see that you can connect the dots, that you understand the complexities on the ground.
Yeah, you got to show them you can think critically, analyze real situations, come up with solutions that, actually work in the real world.
Exactly. And this case study is full of those messy, real-world challenges. It's about understanding the legal frameworks, the ecological concerns, the socioeconomic realities. It all ties together.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork here, explored the FRA and why it matters, and we've dipped our toes into the controversy brewing in Rani Durgavati.
But we've only just scratched the surface.
Oh, yeah, there's so much more to unpack here. So much more. Okay, so we're back, and we're ready to delve deeper into this Rani Durgavati situation.
Yeah, last time we kind of left things hanging with those allegations from the villagers, remember? Those concerns about their rights under the FRA.
Yeah, let's get into the specifics. What exactly are they claiming?
Well, the report in the Indian Express highlighted a few key things. Basically, the villagers are saying their rights to use the forest haven't been fully recognized, like, at all.
What does that mean in practice?
It means they're being restricted from doing things they've always done, collecting forest produce, grazing their livestock, even cultivating some of the land, stuff their families have done for generations.
Wow, so it's not just about losing their homes. It's their whole way of life that's being disrupted.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about the government? What are they saying about all of this?
Well, the DFO, the Divisional Forest Officer, right, he's the one responsible for the area. He's refuted the claims of forced eviction.
Okay, so no one's being forced out. That's their stance.
Yeah, they're saying relocation packages were offered to families who were eligible. But here's the thing.
Go on, what's the catch?
Even if these relocation packages are, like, perfectly fair, which is debatable, relocation itself is, well, it's a huge upheaval. These communities have deep ties to this land. Their families have lived there for centuries.
Right, it's not just about, moving houses. It's their history, their cultural identity, everything.
Exactly. And that's where, that crucial element of the FRA comes in, that free, prior, and informed consent. These communities need to be genuinely consulted. They need to have a real say in decisions that affect their lives.
So it's not enough to just offer compensation, right? It's about respect, about giving them choices.
That's it. And, this highlights a key issue, that disconnect between what the FRA says on paper and what's actually happening on the ground.
Oh, yeah, the age-old problem of implementation. And, it's a real-life example of the kind of dilemmas you might face as a policymaker, right?
Totally. Understanding that gap between policy and practice it's super important.
Okay, so we've got this whole FRA situation, and then to make things even more complicated, we have this massive development project in the mix, right?
Do you mean the Ken-Betwa River linking project? Yeah, that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
So for those who haven't been following this closely, give us the rundown. What's the deal with this project?
Well, the basic idea is to transfer water from the Ken River to the Betwa River, to deal with water scarcity in the region. Makes sense on paper, but it involves submerging a pretty big chunk of forest land, which, obviously raises environmental concerns.
Right. So to compensate for that loss,
Yeah.
they decided to expand the Rani Durgavati Reserve.
Right.
Killed two birds with one stone, kind of.
That was the thinking, but it's created this unintended consequence, potentially. See, when you expand a protected area, sometimes it ends up displacing the very communities you're trying to protect.
Ah, the irony. So we've got this tangled web of competing interests, the need for water, the drive to protect wildlife, and then in the middle of it all, you have the rights of these communities. How do you even begin to untangle that mess?
It's tough, that's for sure. But luckily, it seems like there's some recognition of these issues at the higher levels. The Ministry of Tribal Affairs, the MOTA, right? They've stepped in.
Okay, good. So someone's keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, they've directed the Madhya Pradesh government to, take another look at those complaints from the villagers, make sure the FRA is actually being implemented properly, no more lip service.
So there's some oversight, at least.
Which is a good thing, right?
Definitely. And there's another interesting development here. Even the NTCA, the National Tiger Conservation Authority, the top guys for tiger conservation.
Right, the NTCA. They've also been asked to issue some directives, to make sure tribal interests are protected.
So even in the context of conservation, there's this growing awareness that, it can't come at the cost of human rights.
Absolutely. It's like a shift in thinking. Conservation isn't just about creating protected areas, fencing them off. It's about recognizing the people who live there, their rights, their needs.
It's about finding ways for people and nature to, coexist, thrive together.
Exactly. Now let's shift gears for a moment. Bring this back to, what our listeners really care about, the UPSC exams.
Yeah, that's right. They're probably thinking, okay, all this is interesting, but how does it help me score marks? What's the takeaway from my prep?
Okay, so imagine this. You're in the exam hall and you get an essay question. Something like sustainable development, reconciling economic growth with environmental conservation and social equity.
Oh, that's a classic UPSC question for sure.
Right. And this case study, it's like a gold mine of material for that essay. You can talk about the Ken-Betwa project, the expansion of the Tiger Reserve, the challenges of implementing the FRA.
Show them you understand the complexities, the trade-offs, the need to find that balance between competing interests.
Exactly. Remember, the UPSC, they're not looking for robots who can just regurgitate information. They want to see that you can think, that you can analyze, that you can offer solutions.
So this deep dive, it's not just about learning about the Rani Durgavati controversy. It's about equipping you with the skills to tackle those tough exam questions.
It is. It's about showing the examiners that you're not just book smart, you're also, street smart when it comes to policy.
All right, so we've covered the allegations, the government's response, the Ken Betwa project, and even tied it back to your exam prep. But we haven't really talked about solutions yet.
And that's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. We'll explore some potential ways to address this complex issue, and I'm really excited to talk about the possibilities of ecotourism, so stay with us.
And we're back. So we spent the last two parts, well, really digging into this Rani Durgavati situation, all the complexities, the conflicts, it's a lot. But now, let's talk solutions. What can actually be done here?
Right, right. And one thing that I think has real potential, it's ecotourism.
Ecotourism, okay. I hear that term thrown around a lot, but I got to be honest, it sometimes feels a bit like, a buzzword. How can it actually help in a place like Rani Durgavati? For the communities, for the environment.
So ecotourism, when it's done right, it's all about minimizing those negative impacts that tourism can have, on the environment, on the culture. And at the same time, you're trying to maximize the benefits for the locals.
So it's not just about, building a bunch of fancy resorts and calling it a day.
No, not at all. It's about sustainability, about empowering the communities, giving them a real stake in things.
Okay, I like where this is going. Paint me a picture. What would ecotourism look like in Rani Durgavati?
Well, imagine, guided nature walks, but they're led by members of the local tribes. Who better to showcase the forests, the wildlife? They have this incredible knowledge passed down through generations.
That's a cool idea. So you're creating jobs right there, tapping into their expertise.
Exactly. And then think about a combination. Small, eco-friendly lodges, maybe owned and run by the communities themselves.
Ah, so visitors get that authentic experience. And the money stays within the community.
Right. It creates income, provides alternative livelihoods, and maybe, just maybe, it can help reduce their dependence on those forest resources that are, already under so much pressure.
Yeah, because if their livelihood depends on a healthy ecosystem, they're going to be more invested in protecting it, right?
Absolutely. It gives them a sense of ownership, of responsibility. But here's the thing, and it's a big thing. Ecotourism can go wrong. Very wrong. If it's not done carefully, it can be just as damaging as any other form of tourism.
So what's the key? How do you make sure it's actually beneficial?
It needs careful planning from the start. Strict regulations, real community involvement. You can't just impose it from the top down.
So it's not a quick fix. It's a long-term strategy, and it needs to be done, well, ethically.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot where you have economic development, environmental protection, and you're respecting the rights and culture of the communities.
And that brings us back to the FRA, right? Any ecotourism project in Rani Durgavati, it has to be done in a way that upholds the rights of those communities.
Absolutely. That free, prior, and informed consent, it's non-negotiable. They need to be involved every step of the way, not just consulted, but real partners.
And any benefits, whether it's money, jobs, infrastructure, whatever, it needs to be shared fairly.
Right. Equal partners. And you know what? This whole discussion, it's a perfect example of what the UPSC is looking for. Think about it. You're in that exam, and they hit you with a question about, say, sustainable tourism in ecologically sensitive areas.
Oh, yeah, that's totally a UPSC question.
And you can use this case study, everything we've talked about, to show them you understand the complexities, the challenges, but also the potential.
It's not just about spitting out facts. It's about showing you can apply them, analyze real situations, and come up with solutions that, well, that make sense in the real world.
Exactly. It's about showing them you're ready to tackle those tough policy decisions, that you're thinking about the big picture.
So we've explored this Rani Durgavati case from all angles, the controversy, the challenges, and now some glimmers of hope, some potential solutions.
And hopefully our listeners are walking away with a much deeper understanding of how all these issues, forest rights, conservation, development, how they're all interconnected.
It's not simple, that's for sure. But it's important. And hey, who knows? Maybe some of our listeners, they'll be the ones finding those solutions, shaping policy, making a real difference out there.
That's what we're hoping for. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, please hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, your study buddies. Let's keep the conversation going.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and best of luck on your UPSC journey. We're rooting for you.